Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight, it was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. With I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump continues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you. Toad Stool Sports, the greatest, most autistic, most suicidal sports betting show on the planet. It's Monday, November 17th. I don't have much of a voice. We had a winning weekend. Jeffrey, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. I know I'm going a little bit early. It's going to be a bit of a smaller board today, although there's still a decent amount of college basketball because there basically always is. And I got to figure out when I'm going to start switching to doing some night college basketball shows when there are really huge college basketball boards. We'll figure that out, I guess. Subscribe to the channel and you get the notifications for it. I want to say yesterday was 7-4 or 6-4-1, depending on what number you got in the New York Giants. So we started off, I never saw a 3 on Washington, unfortunately, because there were some professional bettors out there that did get a 3 on that I saw. I never saw it in any of the books. I thought it was still good at 2.5. That was an extremely frustrating way to start the day with Washington. They took the 13-6 lead in the third quarter, and then they never scored again. And if you watched that game, I had it on for some of the end of it. It was unbelievable that Washington didn't win that game. Washington, they outgained Miami in the game by probably close to 100 yards, and it was 13-13 with 6 minutes left, and Washington was literally at the goal line. They went for it on fourth down, which, I mean, I understand the reasoning behind it, although at that point, I would probably kick the field goal because the game's been so messy and low scoring that maybe your defense is going to be able to hold, which, by the way, it wound up holding on the ensuing drive. But Washington went for it. It was a pass play. It was supposed to be a slant to Ertz. He was going to get it, but he tripped, and that was it. So he wasn't where he was supposed to be because he slipped on the turf or the grass. I don't know if the grass was messed up or what it was, but yeah, then it was drive over. Then Miami didn't really do anything, and Washington actually sacked Tua back to, I don't know, somewhere within his own, like, they were inside their own 20-yard line, and it was a 4th and 17, and then I didn't see what happened, but Miami continued the drive somehow. It might have been a penalty, or they got some fluke fourth down conversion. Then I think Miami wound up missing a field goal, so then it was Washington's ball again. Again, Washington should have just kicked the field goal when they were down at the goal line, man, even though, yeah, I understand the move to go for it, but Washington gets back down to the goal. Well, they don't get back down. They get back down into Miami territory. They kick a field goal in the last play of or they attempt one on the last play of regulation. 54 yards. It's makeable, but it's certainly not a definite make. And Gay missed it, which is very gay. Then it went into overtime. Washington got the ball first. So you're thinking, okay, that's probably good, even though this has been a low-scoring game. Let's get the ball and let's drive and score a touchdown here, guys. What do? Oh, yeah, literally the first play, Mariota throws an interception. game over pretty much. And then all Miami has to do is kick a field goal. Great. Just great. Great way to lose that game, guys. And Washington's defense was a lot better than it had been, which Dan Quinn took over the defensive play calling after their defense had been sucking. So that seemed to have actually been an improvement. I still think that was the right call in Washington. That was some bullshit. You got the hook with the Giants. Hell yeah. It was out there for sure. And then we did win on the Tennessee Titans. Titans, they had chances to win that game, man. It was kind of frustrating that they didn't hit on the money line because it would have made that call look really awesome. But they did cover. I think it was a wire-to-wire cover, if I'm not mistaken, for the Titans. At one point, maybe they were down 7. I don't know. I don't remember. But they were able to come within that number. I think they lost by 3 or 4. So that hit. The key number didn't matter in that one. And then, the Giants, the 7.5 was out there. So I did score it at the 7.5. Since I did say, I think if you wait, you'll see a 7.5 probably show up somewhere. And I don't think you're risking not getting a 7. The 7.5s were out there yesterday. So that was, I scored it at 7.5. If you want me to score it as a push, I will, but whatever. And then we had college basketball was a total roller coaster. Jacksonville was obvious. I liked it. I did not make it a play, which in hindsight, everything is obvious. I gave out my analysis on it. I thought it was pretty strong. That was my next strongest play. That was the first one I left off my card. I put it in my pick 5. So I'm 3-1 in the pick 5 right now because we had 2.5 on the Washington game and the other 2 both hit, including we had 7.5 in that game on the Giants. So I'm 3-1. I'm in the money right now, but I also have Dallas minus 3.5 in that game tonight. So we're going to need Dallas to cover for that, which is going to be one of my plays. I don't think we're going to get 3 on that, but I will talk about it. Jacksonville, they seem to have Justin Herbert's number, though. They know how to stop him. In college basketball, UMBC, first game up, they were off to a nice start. Looked like they were going to win and cover easy. They had a big lead early, and then they were not able to extend the lead at all. And who was their opponent? I don't even remember who their opponent. Wagner just somehow stuck around in that game. And you think with UMBC being a fast-paced team, they're going to be able to up the tempo there in that game against an inferior opponent, push the lead further. That didn't happen, and they wound up winning and not covering, which was pretty frustrating. That line was also at 6.5 before the game went off, but they didn't cover that either. I think they won by 5. Very frustrating. Central Arkansas was a win. Assuming you got the 8.5, because I think the line on that one did drop down to 7. And I think they might have lost by exactly the key number was 7. And even that was bullshit. But I'm going to call that a winner on the show because it was 8.5 out there. I think probably most people who played it must have gotten above a 7 on that. It was the right call in Central Arkansas. They almost won the game outright. They were in that game the entire way, and the game went into overtime, and I think they just were tiring out in overtime, and then I believe they lost by 7 in overtime, which does suck, because if you have an underdog that is there in the game, wire to wire, and taken into overtime, that was the right call, man. UMass Lowell, I think, probably should have covered. That line was up to 31 as well, but I don't think they covered even that number. They didn't cover the 28.5, but I don't think they covered the larger numbers either, even though the game was not particularly high scoring. UMass Lowell, I think, was only losing that game by, I don't know, somewhere in the teens at halftime, and I'm thinking, all right, that's not too bad. They can stay within this number, and then just there was one huge run in the game against them. I forget who their opponent was. Whoever it was made one really big run in the second half. So then all of a sudden it was like, oh, UMass Lowell is losing by 15. This is going to cash. And then all of a sudden they're down by 34. I'm like, what is happening here? And then I think that is exactly the number that they lost by. They got back to within the number late in the game, and then they still lost by 34. That was frustrating. I think they could have covered that game. I'm not going to say they should have necessarily, but they definitely were in position to do so. UMass was very frustrating. UMass, the minus 10.5, they were up to 11.5, maybe 12 when the game went off, so the line moved in my direction. I think most of the market reads agreed with my plays, which college basketball, I can't really read the market early in the day. I just go on situation, and then I look later and hope that the market wound up agreeing with me, and they actually do in most cases. UMass, they were blowing the doors off of Central Connecticut early in that game. I was thinking this is going to be easy. UMass was up like 25 late in the first half, and then I don't know what happened, and they fell silent. And I don't exactly know what happened, and Central Connecticut got back within that number, and I think UMass only won by like 5 or 7, and it looked like they were going to completely run away with that game in a blowout. That was frustrating because they looked well on their way to covering that one. And then we had a really nice late slate, though. It was a roller coaster, man. After all that happened, I think we wound up in college basketball because the last 3 all hit. So I think we went 4-3 in college basketball, if I'm not mistaken, because we lost. Both UMasses lost, which, by the way, in Massachusetts, you can't bet those at the actual sites. So that restriction actually helped bettors win more money yesterday. Good for you, books. But yeah, so we had Central Arkansas. We lost UMBC. Yeah, so we were 1-3 college basketball to start the day, and then we finished on a 3-0 run to make it 4-3. UNLV was no sweat. That was wire-to-wire outright win for UNLV. I don't even know if they trailed in the game. That was a nice one. The line was down to 9.5 on that one. Didn't really matter. 9.5, 10, whatever. It's not key in basketball. Mount St. Mary's got us the cover as well. It was somewhat close. I think they lost by about 20 or 21, but they stuck within that number, man, and came away with the cover. And then Akron also covered by, I think they lost by 17. They lost by something close to the number, but they wound up within the range there for Akron, so, which I believe was against Purdue as well. So Akron, yeah, I mean, I think they're a legit team, man. I mean, I think they're probably the best team in the MAC this year, like I said yesterday, as part of the handicap. So, but either way, that worked out well. And then we actually finished the night on a 5-0 run, which was very nice. We had the Orlando Magic. Potentially, they almost were able to get the win in that game. Houston had to hit a late shot, I think, and I think the game went into overtime, and Houston won, but Orlando covered, I believe is what happened in that one. So that was a good cover for the Magic there. Magic looked like they were going to win the game at a bunch of different points, including very late in regulation, of course. And then Utah actually won outright. That was the game where Utah was winning outright for a while, then they were losing by more than the spread, then they got back in it again, then they were winning the game again, and then that game actually wound up going into double overtime, and Utah actually got the outright win there. So a nice finish there to the night. Auburn and under, but the game went over. Ooh, really? It went over? I didn't disagree with the under in that game. I liked Houston, and Houston did not cover. They won and didn't cover, I believe. I had that game on for a little while. I'm surprised that game went over because that game was pretty low scoring. It was like a Houston pace game when I was watching it. It was like the game was like in the 50s, I thought, pretty late in the game. I'm like, yeah, this is definitely a Houston game. But Houston doesn't cover spreads a lot. They don't cover spreads as a favorite that much because they slow everything. You don't have to do that with the mass. I mean, when I was still betting, I was betting 18 years ago, so you know what I was doing. So I obviously have means to play the Massachusetts schools if I want to. There are certain sites that are not in the U.S. that are legit. Under in the bowls. I don't know if I have any thoughts on the total there. I don't usually have thoughts on the totals. All right, let's get into today. That was too much of a breakdown for yesterday. There's still a lot of college basketball. I mean, the show goes long because we have so much basketball. I'm going to try to limit myself a little bit in college basketball today. I got 4 plays, which still seems like a lot on a Monday, but there are a lot of games. First game up is a little bit early at 6:30 p.m., which is not an interesting one, except that there might be a little bit of an angle here with Florida A&M and Georgia. The angle that I might see here is that Georgia just won their rivalry game against Georgia Tech. So that is a big win, and now they get this bad Florida A&M team. And up next, Georgia does have to face Xavier, which Xavier is down, though, this year. And I forget I figured out who Xavier's coach is now, and I was like, oh, that's who their new coach is, and I already forget who it is. But Xavier is not off to a great start here under that new coaching regime. You guys can let me know. I forget who it is. I was like, oh, like I absolutely know who the guy is. I'm like, oh, he's at Xavier now. I'm like, and I think my thought was that's not good for them, but I forget who it is. But that still might be considered to be a bigger game for Georgia because that is a Big East game. So this does kind of look like a sandwich. I'd have some hesitation, though, because Georgia was a big favorite against Georgia Tech, 15.5. So you could argue that I could see both arguments here. Like, yes, this was a rivalry game, so it was a big win for Georgia, but also they didn't win by that much against a Georgia Tech team, although the game was pretty much in hand late in the game. I'm not going to say it was really that much of a scare. I mean, Georgia Tech was looking like they might do something kind of towards the middle of the game, but once it got to the later half of the game, like the game was pretty much put away. Like it wasn't as close as the 5-point final looked, but there could be an argument there that Georgia kind of considers that to be an escape. So I don't know. I mean, I don't want to do it, but the line is a lot. Let me see. Georgia's up from 37 to 38 on the number here. I mean, I would take the points if I was going to play that game. It is a high total as well, though, 172.5. Don't love it. FanDuel money on Georgia. I don't like looking at the big like online books to try to figure out where the actual money is because I think that that completely skews the perception of what's actually going on. I don't like looking at FanDuel, DraftKings. Don't like it at all. I like this site here because it factors the sharp books more. Like I think it more heavily weighs the sharp books here, which gives me a better read on the market. Been doing it for a long time now, and Don Best is no longer a thing. So, although I guess there is Odds Logic is the one that's being pushed by the Wager Talk guys. I haven't tried it out, so I don't know how good it is. You're going to take Florida A&M, even though they haven't covered the spread yet. I lean that way, but I think it's dangerous, which is, I mean, I'm not going to give it out as a play. I will, however, give out a play in one of these next games here. It's already the best bets, man. The whole show, once we get into college basketball season, is best bets. Going to give out a play in Oakland plus the points, although I know this has gone down a little bit already. So we've lost a little bit of value on this. It was 15, now it's 12.5. You might be able to get 13. The money looks like it is definitely coming in on Oakland. I don't think the market read is going to change on this one, although who knows this early in the morning. But my situational read says Oakland here as well. Total's a little bit high, which does worry me a little bit, but this I'm going to show you what the situation is for UCF, and I think this is definitely a fade spot for them. 57% of the tickets are on UCF, 94% of the cash on Oakland. This is Oakland, Michigan, not Oakland, California, so they do not have to travel across the country for this at least. Oakland, I think they've played the most difficult schedule in all of college basketball, so the fact that they're 1-3 doesn't really tell you the entire story. I mean, I'm not saying they're good. Obviously, they're not as good as a Big 12 team like UCF, although UCF is a lesser Big 12 team. But look at Oakland's schedule to start the season, man. I'm pretty sure KenPom has Oakland as literally the number one strongest strength of schedule so far. They played on the road against Michigan, Purdue, and Houston. And Purdue and Houston were both ranked number one when they played them, both on the road. And I think Purdue and Houston are probably actually the top two teams as well. So this opening to Oakland's schedule has been absurd. They played Purdue pretty well, actually, even though they got blown out in the other two games. They only lost by 10 to Purdue, so they put up a fight in that game. And then after losing those three games, they were able to get their first win of the season against Defiance, who was not very defiant. That's some non-Division I team. Blowout win for Oakland. But I think what that will do is it helps your momentum. And it gives you new momentum when you get your first win of the season. I think that will just propel them forward. Now they get to take that win out on the road. And UCF is a major step down from Michigan, Purdue, and Houston. So this is actually going to be the easiest Division I game that Oakland has faced so far. So they are absolutely battle-tested, which I do like. And they've been on the road for all those difficult games, so they're not going to be intimidated by this. And for UCF, they just went into Texas A&M an SEC team, even though Texas A&M looks down this year. A&M was a 10.5-point favorite in this game, and UCF won the game outright by 12. So that was a big upset win. If you look at what happened in this game, UCF shot really crazy high in the game, especially the 50% from three-point range. Texas A&M over the last couple of years has been known as like slow, physical, play defense. They don't shoot well, but in this game, their defense was not good, and UCF had a pretty big outlier of a three-point percentage there, so I expect that to regress. Texas A&M shot really poorly in the game, too. 37% from the field is notable, as that's a pretty low percentage. I mean, even for Texas A&M, who's not a really good shooting team, their percentage is still not that bad, usually because they take a lot of shots near the basket, typically, although this year, maybe not quite as much the case, but Texas A&M, they are also a physical defense, I think still. That's just kind of their MO. So they can punish you physically. So coming off that game, not only was it an upset win, but I think UCF could be kind of beat up after that game. Now they get Oakland, who they might not really pay a whole lot of attention to. Oh, this Horizon team coming in here. And up next, UCF does have to play Pitt, which is an ACC team. And Pitt is 3-1 to start the season. And this is some neutral site game, I think, in the Sky Scanner Legends Classic, whatever the hell that is. It's in Daytona Beach, Florida, so it'll be like a semi-home for UCF, if you want to call it that. That's a bigger game up next, though, so this is a sandwich spot. I like it for Oakland. We'll grab the points with Oakland in that one. Hopefully the number goes back up a little bit because missed the 15, although in basketball these numbers aren't key, but every possession does matter to some extent. All right. Colgate at Siena, by the way, I actually just forgot to handicap this. I think I skipped right over it. I doubt I'm going to see a situation on this, but I just want to do it just because I don't like missing games. Colgate did get that cover for us against Illinois in their last game. I don't know that they'll be in a hangover spot after that, though, because it wasn't really that close. Siena just took their first loss in a big game for them against St. Bonaventure. Siena, St. Bonaventure, those are like, they're both in upstate New York. That's a pretty big matchup between those two teams. So, or I think Siena's in upstate New York. They're somewhere in New York above New York City, so I think that counts. Yeah, I mean, to me, it looks like both teams are in somewhat bad spots. That was Siena's first loss of the season, which can kind of hang you over a little bit. Although they've had some time off to kind of recollect themselves after that. But I don't want to do anything with that game. As I figured, I wouldn't want to do anything. I mean, even though I do have 4 plays, I'm trying to be a bit selective. That number did drop a little bit from 6.5 to 6 on Siena. Yep, the Fighting Toothpaste of Colgate. They should change their name to that. Although their name, I mean, the Raiders is at least not a terrible name. But, all right. Next up, we are going to go with another play here with Lafayette, plus 23.5. I know they're bad, dude. I know we're looking at like a bottom 30 or so team in all of college basketball. They're at West Virginia, but there are some things that I do like about this, even though this is a very, very ugly Lafayette team. West Virginia is down from 25 to 23 on the line here. It looks like, I think 23.5s are pretty abundant right now. Hopefully the exact number doesn't really come into play in this one, but we'll see. I mean, West Virginia, they're a Big 12 team, but they're still adapting to this new coaching regime here with, I forget what his name is, the guy from North Texas who's coming in and he's basically slowing West Virginia down even more. So West Virginia, they were already like a slow-paced offense. That's what they've been doing for years. Slow the pace way down, try to play defense, whatever. But North Texas is an even more extreme version of that, or they were under their coach, and now he's at West Virginia. So that is really their MO this year. Now, as far as West Virginia, well, that means, of course, that points are going to be more at a premium here because West Virginia plays slow. And this total is crazy low at 134. So that one is a really low total. The Oakland one is a lot higher, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that at 161, which worries me slightly, but I'm still doing that one. This low total with a very high spread, though, the points are worth more in a game like this, man. West Virginia, they'll likely be able to control the pace. They're going to want to play slow here. I don't think Lafayette wants to play fast either. So, yeah, they're at 226th in tempo. So there's not really going to be a huge tempo clash here. So Lafayette won't be like totally uncomfortable at this pace. which is good, I think, for this cover as well. West Virginia's off to a 4-0 start, but their biggest win was the most recent game where they smacked Pitt. And it looked like Pitt, their best player, Cummings, it looked like he was potentially not going to play in that game. He did play, and he looked off, man. He had a really bad game. And I don't know if that was because he was not at 100% or because West Virginia is that good defensively. I don't know, but that was a huge win. I mean, that is a rivalry between West Virginia and Pitt. Even though people talk more about the football rivalry, but the schools do not like each other. And that was the first big conference game for West Virginia, and they destroyed Pitt. They embarrassed them, 71-49. So now West Virginia's coming off that. That is a very satisfying win. Now they're coming back home off of that, where I think that game was in Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, I think, so that it wasn't actually in Morgantown, I believe. Now they're coming back to campus, and, you know, they're probably going to be riding pretty high. Everybody's going to be congratulating them and whatever. I think they're going to look past this Lafayette team, man. And up next, they do have to face Clemson in some neutral site affair here, the Shriners Children's Charleston Classic in the Palmetto bracket, which is going to be in Charleston, South Carolina, which is going to be a semi-home game for Clemson because they're in South Carolina. But that's a bigger game, man. That's an ACC game, an ACC opponent, I should say. Clemson has been good the last couple of years. They've been in the tournament last couple of years, even though I don't think they're as good this year. But I think this is a sandwich spot for West Virginia. The slow pace is not really conducive to covering as a huge favorite. And Lafayette, they're going to be looking for a win. I mean, it is what it is. Like, I don't think they're going to be intimidated because they have played on the road against Texas this year and against St. Joe's. I mean, those were not easy games. Going to West Virginia is closer to Lafayette's campus than Texas is. So this trip isn't as bad for them because Lafayette is in Pennsylvania, I believe. So not a long trip for them. They're going to get up for the game because it's a Big 12 opponent. So, yeah, I like it. I think Lafayette will give you an effort in this one. They're coming off a pretty ugly loss at home to Cornell. So, I like it. I don't like the spot for West Virginia, obviously. That's a play right there. FanDuel, 133.5. Yeah, it's a low total regardless. Getting your car inspected. Well, I hope there's nothing wrong with it. The inspections, I hate that. The law, you have to have the sticker. Come on, man. Like, they don't do anything. The inspection takes like 20 minutes. It's like, oh, it's done? Okay. Dirty Sock, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. Sorry I went a little bit early here. All right, VCU at NC State is one of the bigger games of the day. There aren't too many big games today between big opponents. VCU, I mean, their biggest test was against Utah State so far, and they did lose that game. Now this is going to be a true road game. First true road game of the season, having to go to NC State. I don't think it's going to be that easy for them. NC State looking pretty good so far, although they haven't really been tested yet. They're 3-0, but against some pretty weak opponents. But they did smack down in-state little brother UNC Greensboro in the last game, although they look like they're down this year. But satisfying win where NC State looks really good in that game, scoring 110 points for the second time this year. But they're staying at home. I mean, I think this does set up better for NC State. Don't have a strong opinion on this one, but I probably lean to laying it. They're up from 11 to 12.5, although at that number, the money looks like it's coming back on VCU. 88% of the tickets, only 79% of the cash on NC State. I mean, I don't really have a strong opinion on it, so just talking about it because it was a bigger, one of the bigger matchups there. Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I appreciate the regulars. I appreciate that you like the show, man. He couldn't inspect it today. I've had that happen, too. Like, sometimes when you try to get, well, it's a Monday, so you'd figure you'd be able to get a place to do it. But, like, sometimes I've tried to do it on, like, a Saturday, and it's, like, very difficult to find a place that'll do it. St. Joe's and Penn is a Pennsylvania matchup here where Penn is going to consider themselves to be the little brother of these two, I would imagine, because it's Ivy versus Atlantic 10. St. Joe's just took their first loss of the season, so sometimes I talk about how that will hang you over a little bit, but it was an embarrassingly ugly 94-59 loss to Virginia Tech. So you could argue they're going to be in a bounce-back mode here after that because that loss was just so ugly. Penn, they're also coming off a blowout loss to Providence, although Providence, Big East team, I mean, that was somewhat expected that Penn would not be able to hang in that game. Both teams I expect to get up for this game, so in that case, I usually tend to look towards the little brother of the two. Penn is getting 5 points here. The line looks like it's going a little bit higher, 5.5 actually. The line looks like it's going a little bit higher as well. This is, I believe, at Penn's stadium as well. This is actually a Philadelphia battle as well, but I'm pretty sure this is at Penn's campus. Jeffrey can correct me if I'm wrong because he's the Philadelphia guy, but I believe the Palestra is Penn's home arena. So I believe it's a home game for them, although it's in Pennsylvania. I mean, it's in Philadelphia. I believe both schools are Philadelphia. All right, Bucknell at Pitt. This is a game where, I mean, just on the surface, I would kind of start leaning towards Bucknell because they're the little brother in the state of Pennsylvania. They're going to get up for a game against Pitt. Yep, the Palestra. Pretty sure, yeah, not Podesta. I don't. Is there an underground child trafficking ring underneath the arena there? The John Palestra. But yes, I believe that's still where Penn plays. Bucknell, you know they're going to get up for a game against Pitt because Pitt is one of the bigger schools in their area. Pitt is coming off that game against West Virginia where, yes, it was an embarrassing loss, but it was also a game where Pitt, I think, got up for that game, and it was their first loss. So I could see this being a bit of a hangover for Pitt, even though they might want to redeem themselves from how ugly that loss was. So this is why I don't really want to get involved in this one, because I could see that going either way for Pitt. They do have UCF up next, although I think UCF looking ahead to Pitt is a bigger look ahead than Pitt looking to UCF, because UCF, they're a newcomer to the Big 12, so I still think they are not quite considered to be one of the bigger boys, if you know what I mean. But Bucknell, I mean, I think they're going to get up for this game. This game being on the horizon was part of the reason why we faded Bucknell against Hofstra on Friday, and we got the win in that one because I thought they'd be potentially looking ahead to Pitt. This is going to be a big game for Bucknell, so I do expect Bucknell to show up here in this game. It's just Bucknell is a pretty lousy team, man, so we'll see. The line actually doesn't look that high, which almost makes it look like it looks too easy to lay the points with Pitt at 16.5, with Bucknell being pretty bad this year in KenPom's rankings, like somewhere in the mid-200s. 16.5 doesn't look like particularly a large spread here. Total also is low, down to 142.5. I would take the points with Bucknell in that one. Not going to make my card, though. Lamar at UL Monroe. This caught my eye because I don't think Lamar is in a very good spot. Lamar just played pretty tough at in-state big brother TCU because Lamar is also a Texas school. TCU is an 18.5 point favorite in this game, and Lamar came within 13 of them. But if you look at this game, even though TCU actually shot really well in the game, TCU had a lot of turnovers in the game, so that might have had something to do with the fact that they didn't win by a huge margin. But Lamar was winning this game outright, like midway through the second half, man. So they played really tough in this game, and they were still within 6 with less than 5 minutes left. They were within 2 possessions. So Lamar put up a big fight in this game. Big effort, big game for them to face one of the big schools in Texas. Now they're coming off that, and they got to go to UL Monroe. I just don't see how Lamar gets totally excited, gets back up off the mat after that. UL Monroe, pretty bad team, but they did have one difficult opponent in there at Ole Miss, which that's one of their losses. And they've played 3 road games so far. And this is going to be their first Division I home game. So I do expect UL Monroe to show up for this one. They lost at Houston Christian in their last game, which Houston Christian, they're not that good, but they were, I think, like an 8.5 point favorite against UL Monroe. UL Monroe, really bad, but I think this is a spot where it's just not a good spot for Lamar. I do not think there's any real look-ahead component here, though. I mean, Montana, they're a bigger name than UL Monroe, though, so there is that. Like, Montana, they're one of the better teams in the Big Sky, and they did make the tournament last year, so maybe, debatably, there is some component there. If you want UL Monroe, the line has gone up from 8.5 to 10.5. I would take the points with UL Monroe in that one if I was going to play it. Hasn't made my card, though. Stonehill, my local guys, have to go to Iowa State. Looks like it's not going to be that easy of a travel spot for Stonehill, man. This is going to be the first time they're leaving Or no, it's not the first time they leave in the Eastern time zone because they did have to go to DePaul. So maybe that makes it a little bit easier for them to have to go out to Iowa, but still, they're having to go out to an unfamiliar place, man, and face a really strong Iowa State team. And they're coming off that tournament that they were just in Fairfield, Connecticut, although Stonehill got pretty embarrassed in the tournament, losing both games. So you could argue, well, they get to just forget about that and just go on the road. So maybe it's not all bad for Stonehill. It is pretty much a sandwich spot for Iowa State, though. I mean, they just pulled off a nice win against SEC Mississippi State. Double-digit win. Nice win for Iowa State there. And they do have St. John's and Creighton coming up after this. So they got some big opponents coming up after this. So this does look like a game where Iowa State's just not going to give their full effort and just kind of go through the motions, get in, get out. I have not added this to my card, but you're getting a ton of points if you want Stonehill. Iowa State up from 37 to 39.5 now. Iowa State does like to go fast, and Stonehill does not, I believe. But I know I've faded some of these fast-paced teams recently in games similar to this where I thought they were in a sandwich spot. And really the handicap is, even though this team is fast, they just don't want to fatigue themselves, right? They don't want to put in, like, why would you run yourselves out, like, against a team that you can just beat easily without putting in 100% effort? You know what I mean? So that is still kind of what I expect here. I don't expect a complete effort from Iowa State. Obviously, I think they're going to win easily, but I don't think they're going to cover the number. I have not given this out as a play. I'm not going to, but I mean, something about Stonehill coming off that tournament and having to go to an unfamiliar venue just scares me a little bit about it. But I would take the points with Stonehill if I was going to do it. Stonehill 2-2 against the spread, yeah. And that basically means the odds makers are doing their job because they basically want teams to be 50-50 against the spread because that means the odds makers are making money because they're collecting, the juice there, the vig. 9-3 in college football on Saturday. That's pretty solid, man. Nice win for you. I was only 3-2. I was not happy about it, man. USC and Michigan State, though I thought those were like maybe the two strongest, and those both lost. I'm not thrilled about that, obviously. Good plays by you, though, obviously. I think I agreed with the majority of them, maybe not all of them. Yeah, it's edging money. It is the VIG or the juice, yeah. Wisconsin, ranked 24th in the country. Iowa State is 16th, by the way. Wisconsin's got SIU Edwardsville coming in. Wisconsin, a large favorite here, obviously. Wisconsin really has not been tested yet. And they do have a huge game up next against BYU. That is a major look-ahead spot for Wisconsin because if you remember, BYU is the team that eliminated Wisconsin from the tournament last year, which I had that right in my bracket, by the way. My bracket was pretty strong, man. It's just that I needed Florida to get bounced in the tournament. It didn't happen, and I think it should have earlier in the tournament. But, yeah, I had BYU getting to the Sweet 16 and bouncing Wisconsin, and that is what happened. That was a crazy high-scoring game as well. Wisconsin's definitely going to remember that, so they're definitely going to have that game circled. So I do think Wisconsin probably not going to come into this game with a full effort. They are coming off a blowout win as well, but it was against Ball State, so it was not a max effort game for Wisconsin, I would imagine. SIU Edwardsville is one of the better teams in the Ohio Valley. I think they won that conference last year, and then they got destroyed by Houston as a 16 seed in the tournament. But SIU Edwardsville, the reason why I don't want to play them is they're coming off a big game as well. They just upset Drake on the road, 7.5-point underdog. Big win for SIU Edwardsville, even though I know Drake, Ben McCollum, has moved on to bigger things in the state of Iowa, moving over to Iowa. But still, Drake, the name and the fact that Drake was a favorite, that's a pretty big win for SIU Edwardsville. So I worry that there is kind of a letdown component here, even though I do expect them to show up. It makes it a bit more of a difficult spot for them here, although I do think this is a major look-ahead spot that Wisconsin is in. I do expect Wisconsin to just not have their foot on the gas in this game, so I would take the points if I was going to do it, although here we see 80% of the tickets on SIU Edwardsville, 68% of the cash on Wisconsin. I don't get that. market read there. I don't get those percentages at all. I think there's no way that the public is taking SIU Edwardsville. But yes, if I was going to play it, I would take the points. The card is really tough. Yeah, I'm limiting myself a bit. Saab, I've already given out 2 plays, though, in college basketball, which I'm going to reiterate at the end of the show. You can go back and see my analysis. River Rat, what's up, man? Yes, sir. We're not all free, man. That's the thing. Like, we're all in a prison together here. All right, I'm going to give out another play right here, which this one's probably the weakest of the 4, but we're going to take North Dakota State plus the 1.5 against Southern Illinois. I do not like how this sets up for Southern Illinois. I know I faded them in their last game, and I got caught. Ken Baum, I think, actually has both of these teams listed as being amongst his luckier teams in the country, so that kind of balances out. But Southern Illinois, they just went all the way out to Nevada, and I got this game wrong. I laid the points with Nevada. I gave it out a 10 on the show, and it went up to 11.5. So the money agreed with it. I didn't think it was a good spot for Southern Illinois, but I thought Nevada was going to show up because they were coming off a bad performance in the previous game. And Southern Illinois, they played really well in this game, and they took Nevada into overtime. And they had chances to win this game, although Nevada was terrible in this game, though. Even though they had few turnovers, they won the rebound battle, but their shooting was awful. 35% from the field. Both teams are 24% from 3, but very, very bad shooting game from Nevada. I think that was a bit of an outlier. Southern Illinois did lose the rebound battle, so something that's, one of the more predictable stats that they did lose. But Southern Illinois, they had Nevada on the ropes, man. They could have pulled off this win. They were winning for more of the game than Nevada was. They had the bigger lead in the game than Nevada did. Not good for my play, obviously. I don't think Nevada was ever covering in the game. Wire-to-wire cover for Southern Illinois. But they wound up going into overtime, and then it looked like Nevada might actually be able to pull away. I'm like, do it, man, do it. Like, just cover in overtime. Like, give me a bad beat on my side for once. No, Nevada won by 5, didn't cover, but coming off of that game, that was a huge game for Southern Illinois. They put in a max effort in that game. Now they got to go up to North Dakota. I don't like the spot here, man. I really don't. North Dakota State is 2-0 at home, although I don't think they've really played any good opponents. Fuck you, ad block. I'm not going to buy your premium shit. North Dakota State, I mean, their 2 home games have been somewhat easy against Cal State Northridge and Scholastic or whoever that is. But they are still 2-0 at home, and they have some momentum right now, and they're just staying at home, so the travel spot is better for North Dakota State, and I don't think they're going to be overconfident. I just think they have some momentum. Sorry, that school is Saint Scholastica. He's the patron saint of what's the terminology I'm looking for? Of elementary school subscription reading material. I don't know, which probably involves all trans propaganda now. No, I have no idea. But Saint Scholastica, North Dakota State annihilated them, but I don't really see them being overconfident after beating a non-Division I team. So, bad spot for Southern Illinois. I don't consider it to be a negative spot for North Dakota State, so we're going to go with it. The line has dropped from 2.5 to 1.5 with Southern Illinois being the favorite. You're getting points at home with North Dakota State. I'm not going to say they're the better team because they're not, but I don't think they're that much worse either. 93% of tickets, 96% of the cash coming in on North Dakota State. And North Dakota State does like to slow the pace down. So I like these home underdogs with these slower paced teams. Ken Baum has North Dakota State being one of the unluckiest teams in the nation. He has them as like the 8th unluckiest team in the nation right now, which means that they're better than they look. But he has Southern Illinois very unlucky as well. He actually has them as like the 14th unluckiest. So both teams unlucky, but I think that just negates itself. Southern Illinois likes to play a fast tempo. They're in the top 100. I think North Dakota State will be able to slow it down a bit, throw them out of their element. The total's kind of just in the mid-range of totals at 154. We'll take North Dakota State plus the points in that one. Buffalo Sabres money line, Pelicans first quarter plus the points, Bucks first half plus the points. Yeah, Saab, I don't know, man. Your volume is it's too. I think my volume is high. Your volume is like out of control, man. I'll talk about the Sabres shortly. I don't have much of a feel on those other games though. All right. What else do we have today on college basketball? My last play that I'm going to give out is right here. We're going to take the points with Tulsa against Kansas State, plus 13.5 with Tulsa. Don't really see much of the percentages there. We see 65% of the tickets, 100% of the cash on Tulsa. Not sure that I buy that, but I think you can get 13.5 right now with Tulsa. I like it as a bounce back spot for Tulsa, man, because if you remember, we went against Tulsa in their last game. We took Oral Roberts, and the handicap was Oral Roberts is the little brother in the city of Tulsa, so they really get up for a game against Tulsa. Whereas Tulsa, I thought might overlook them a little bit coming off beating Rhode Island, and then Tulsa had this big game against Kansas State up next. They got this game circled, dude. This is like their biggest game of the season. Like, I don't think they face any power conference opponents for the remainder. This is the only one the entire season. So I think Tulsa was in a big-time look-ahead spot. They almost lost to Oral Roberts, and now that loss is explainable, or that 1-point win is explainable. But also, I think because they got that major scare by Oral Roberts and almost lost the game, I think that's going to give them more focus coming into this game. So I'm expecting a big effort out of Tulsa here. I don't think they're going to be totally intimidated going up into Manhattan, Kansas, to be honest, even though usually it is a pretty difficult place to play, but it's not that far from Tulsa. Kansas, they got bigger things that they're trying to do this year, man. Kansas is coming off a big game over Cal, big win, although Kansas did not cover the spread, but this is Cal, man. I mean, it's an ACC team. They're off to a decent start. Kansas State beat them. That's a big win, but if you look at what happened in this game, both teams shot like out of control high in this game. There was like no defense in this game, but Kansas State shot 64% from the field, 50% from three. You know that's going to regress, dude. Even though I know Cal shot 54% from three, but yeah, there's no way Kansas State is going to shoot 64% from the field again, especially if they're not really focused, and I think they might not be. Coming off that big win, they got a bigger game up next. They have two big games coming up after this against Mississippi State and Indiana, so they got two power conference opponents coming up right after this. Mississippi State will be in the middle of the week, so I think it's a sandwich spot that Kansas State is in. I do not like it for them. I like Tulsa to show up. Kansas State, big name. I know they're making the tournament a bunch of years in a row. They took a step back last year, though, man. And right now, I think they're still kind of in a rebuild mode right now. I think they'll be maybe, in the mix to try to get a tournament bid this year. But they're not like one of these upper echelon Big 12 teams right now. And as far as, Tulsa against Oral Roberts, I mean, Oral Roberts shot really well in the game, 50% from the field. Both teams were in the low 40s from three-point range, so that was kind of an outlier. Tulsa out-rebounded them, by the way, by 9, so the more predictable stat of rebounds, Tulsa out-rebounded them. So that's a decent sign for Tulsa coming into this one. We're going to take the points with Tulsa, and that is the fourth and final college basketball play on my card there. You like the T-Wolves against the Mavericks? Oh, boy. Wolves will not cover against both Dallas and the Wizards. I don't know, man. I mean, I can't really call what's going to happen in the next game necessarily because it all depends on what happens in tonight's game. I'll talk about that game in a minute. Well, once I get to the NBA. For the remaining games here on the board that we have here today, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot else to say about this board. Gonzaga, you could argue Gonzaga's in kind of a bad spot because they had a big win against Creighton at home, blew them out. Then they went down to Arizona State, first true road game, got a nice double-digit win there against Arizona State. Now they come home and they got this Southern Utah team that you got to think Gonzaga's just going to go through the motions here and just look past them. They got a week off, and then they play Alabama next, which is a huge game. So it's basically a sandwich spot there, so I don't love Gonzaga there. Southern Utah, they're pretty bad though, man. Like I don't know if I can actually do it. And they're coming off a pretty nice performance against Omaha, where they went on the road. I thought this was actually kind of a bad spot for Southern Utah. I thought it was kind of a positive for Omaha. Like I gave out a lean on Omaha minus the points in this one, and Omaha did not cover as 8.5-point favorites. Southern Utah played well in this game as an underdog, even though Omaha shot ridiculously well in the game and still didn't cover. which does say something. It does say that even though Southern Utah, shot horribly in the game and they still covered the spread. That does tell you something. It's about Southern Utah, I guess, that maybe they're actually not terrible, although I still think they are. People are also going to look at this and say, oh, Gonzaga beat Arizona State by double digits and Arizona State beat Southern Utah by double digits, but everybody already knows Gonzaga's the way better team, so whatever. But yeah, the one thing that worries me about Southern Utah is they had that big performance in Omaha a couple days ago, so as an underdog, so I worry a little bit. I would still take the points here with them, but the money seems to disagree. Gonzaga's up from 34.5 to 35.5. 60% of the cash on Gonzaga, 50% of the tickets evenly split. Yeah, I mean, again, that one's definitely a stay away. And then we have North Alabama and Clemson, where you could argue that Clemson is in a sandwich spot, maybe a letdown spot, because they just took their first loss of the season on the road at Georgetown, a Big East team that looks like they're kind of on the rise again here. That was a big game, and Clemson took the loss. Now they have to come back home and face North Alabama, who they may not pay attention to. Although North Alabama, if you remember, they made the A-Sun title game last year and were pretty competitive in that game as well, which I think was against Kennesaw, I want to say. They're not that bad of a team, though. I think they're a little bit under the radar. Clemson also does have West Virginia up next, so a Big 12 team. I know Georgetown and West Virginia are not these like upper echelon teams in their conferences, but I do think it's still a sandwich spot, and it being Clemson's first loss in their last game could hang them over a bit. North Alabama, they're coming off a home loss to East Tennessee. East Tennessee, decent team, though. That was kind of a big game because it was a conference challenge game there between the A-Sun and the SoCon. So North Alabama's having to come off of that loss. They've only played one game on the road, and they were pretty non-competitive against Mississippi State. So, I don't know. They lost by 24 in that one. I'm staying away, but Clemson is almost exactly a 24-point favorite. They're down to 23.5. It is a fairly low total, 144.5. So if you do like North Alabama, the points are going to be more valuable in a game like that with a low total. So that's what we got going on in that one. Which, by the way, the Tulsa game, I realize it is a high total. So maybe some concern there. As far as the pacing in that game, by the way, Kansas State does play a fast tempo, and Tulsa does not. Tulsa wants to play slow. But I just think Kansas State's not going to push the tempo to the max in that game because I don't think it's that much of a big game for them. So I think they're going to try to save some of their energy, you know what I mean? So that's how I've been handicapping these games recently with the faster-paced team that I think is in a bad spot. You know, I just think they might not go full throttle because they want to save their energy. So Tulsa may be able to get that game into a bit of a slower pace. And then we do have a rivalry game between Oregon State and Oregon here. And I believe Oregon went into Corvallis, into Oregon State last year and beat them. So it's a little bit of revenge for Oregon State. I think Oregon State treats this game as a bigger game than Oregon does because Oregon State was one of the teams from the Pac-12 that got orphaned, and now in basketball they're in the WCC, so they're down in a non-power conference, whereas Oregon got to move up to the Big Ten. So I think Oregon State does play with a chip on their shoulder against Oregon. Oregon State's coming off that game where I think they know they got lucky. They only beat North Texas because North Texas called a timeout when they didn't have any left, and Oregon State won on technical foul shots. So I think Oregon State realizes they got really lucky in that game. This is going to be their first true road game, but staying in the state of Oregon, and obviously not an unfamiliar venue to them because this is a team that used to play at Oregon every single year because when they were in the same conference, they played each other in both venues every year. So I don't think they're going to be intimidated by that. Oregon, I mean, they're not excellent this year, and we've seen they have not been good as a home favorite this year, man. Oregon, they're 0-3 against the spread. They've been a home favorite in every game so far, and they haven't covered any of them. And they're 0-2 for me because I expected them to bounce back and play better in each of those two games, and they didn't do it. And they have Auburn up next. I mean, I don't think they're going to overlook Oregon State because it is a huge rivalry for both teams, but maybe there is something in the back of their head, like, we got these bigger games coming up, man. Auburn, pretty big game there. So I would take the points with Oregon State in this game if I was going to do it. Oregon's up from 11.5 to 13 here. 75% of tickets, 95% of the cash on Oregon State. So it looks like the money is coming back on Oregon State there. Yeah, so we'll see what happens in that game. Not getting involved. Yeah, Oregon, I hate them right now, obviously. Let's hope that Southern Illinois doesn't become my new nemesis, because this will be the second time I'm trying to fade them. Nah, I don't think it's going to happen. Oregon, I don't think they're going to cover this. Oh, this is a low total, too, down to 141. Oregon plays a lot of low-scoring games, man, so it is more difficult for them to cover by a margin like that because they play these ugly, low-scoring games. So they're not going to win by 30. They may cover the spread, but all right, NHL. We don't have a ton of games today in the NHL. I like Mondays because they're, the board's smaller, although, of course, college basketball is huge. I'm going to give out one hockey play here. I'm trying to limit myself here, man. My Boston Bruins kick off the slate here playing against Carolina. This is a big game, kind of for both teams at this point, because Carolina, they're rolling. They're playing pretty well, although they've lost a couple games recently. But you figure they'll probably show up here because they're going back to where they lost. Their third most recent loss was at Boston back on November 1st. So I think they're going to remember that, and they're going to show up here. But the spot isn't great for Carolina here as they're playing a third game in 4 days, the first two of which went into overtime, and they're coming off taking Edmonton into overtime. And I think Carolina kind of treated that as like this should have been the Stanley Cup final matchup last year, because I think Carolina, I believe, lost to Florida in the conference championship round last year, conference championship series, whatever, Eastern Conference Finals. So I think that was a big game for Carolina, though. I mean, it was against Edmonton. They put in a huge effort, went to overtime. Don't love the spot that they're in here, although they are starting a road trip, and I do say teams will be focused to start the road trip. Carolina is doing something where they're using a different goalie every single day, so their goalie is rested coming into this one, assuming they're not going to use Anderson back-to-back, although they did do that once or twice this year, both back in October. Unlikely they're going to do it this time, though. Boston, my Boston Bruins here, they're on a nice roll, man, and they did not suffer a hangover effect after losing a long win streak against Ottawa. They bounced back with a big win over Montreal, but I think that kind of puts them in a bit of a letdown spot here because big rivalry between Boston and Montreal's pretty good again, so that was a big win for the Bruins in Montreal. Now they're coming back home. It was only a 2-game road trip, so I don't really consider it to be like one of the huge road trip return spots where they've been away for a long time. That's not the case. I don't think they're going to overlook Carolina either because Carolina's so good. But the Bruins do have Anaheim up next, and Anaheim did beat Boston in late October. So I don't know if they're going to have one eye looking ahead to that game. Probably not. I mean, they'll probably still focus on Carolina. Basically, I think both teams will show up here, but that probably means the better team is going to be the team to win out. Carolina's a big favorite as the Bruins, I almost said the Red Sox. The Bruins are still not getting any market respect here. Carolina up from down from minus 195 to minus 188. 72% of the tickets and 95% of the cash on Carolina. Looks like the money's coming in on the Carolina side. I don't want to touch it. I mean, to me, I think the spot is actually a little bit worse for Carolina because they played more games in the last few days and took Edmonton to overtime in the last game. But we will see. I mean, it is a return home spot technically for the Bruins. But again, I don't think they're going to be distracted because they haven't been away for that long. I don't think they're going to overlook Carolina. But it is technically a road trip return and a road trip start for Carolina, where usually I look to the team to start the road trip. Edmonton is at Buffalo. I do think Edmonton's in a bad spot. Edmonton just beat Carolina in overtime on the road. Now they're going up to Buffalo, who has not been very good. And they do have Washington, Tampa Bay, Florida, Dallas all coming up next. Those are all bigger games. So it is pretty much a sandwich spot for Edmonton here. I don't like the spot. I think they might overlook Buffalo here. However, Buffalo just beat Detroit, man, on the road, and they're returning home from a road trip. I don't like it, man. I do not like it for Buffalo here either. In Buffalo, they played on the 12th, 13th, and 15th. So they're playing a fourth game in 6 days on top of it being a road trip return. I don't love that. The one good thing is they broke their loss streak. So sometimes when you break your loss streak with a win, it'll carry over into the next game. But in this game, and again, it was a big upset win on the road against Detroit. They're returning home from a road trip here, which I like to say that tends to be a distraction spot. You got to get back to home life. They're not going to overlook Edmonton, but still, I mean, that's still, I think, is some sort of a factor, even if you are playing a better team like Edmonton. The money in this one is reflecting on Edmonton. They're down from minus 160 to minus 155 on the money line, but 87% of the cash on them, 72% of the tickets on Buffalo, which I don't buy the Buffalo as a public side in this game, though, but I can't get there with either team. They're both in bad spots, so you know what my opinion will be on this game. It'll be the over. I mean, Edmonton, they could score. Buffalo, not good defensively, not good goaltending. I don't like the goaltending on either side, really, either. So I think an over, with both these teams also being in spots where they might be tired out, which can reflect on defense. Over makes sense to me in that game. Vancouver at Florida. And I'm going to keep watching those overs to the point where maybe I'll get confident in my over calls and get back to actually giving them out as plays. But Vancouver's coming off a nice win over Tampa Bay. I mean, that was yesterday too, so it's a bad spot for them, man, because they just played Carolina and Tampa Bay, and now they're going to Florida. 3 games on the road in a 4-day span. Took Carolina to overtime and then beat Tampa Bay. You'd think they would be focused on Florida because Florida's the back-to-back defending returning champs, but it is possible Vancouver runs out of steam in this game, man. The scheduling spot's pretty difficult for them, and I thought they might overlook Tampa Bay and play harder against Florida, but they got that big win against Tampa. It did end a loss streak for them, but this looks like a tough spot, man, for Vancouver. For Florida just lost to that same Tampa Bay team, and they're staying at home, and they've had a day off. So Florida's going to be the more rested team. I think they're going to want to bounce back off of that ugly loss. And people might look at this and say, oh, Vancouver just smacked Tampa Bay at Tampa Bay, and Florida just lost to Tampa Bay at home. So the public might actually even start thinking that there's some value taking Vancouver here for that reason. Although, as you know, I gave out Tampa Bay on Saturday as one of my hockey plays. We swept 2-0 in hockey on Saturday. I told you Tampa Bay was in a huge revenge spot there because Florida was the team that knocked them out of the playoffs last year. So that was part of the handicap there. Plus Florida, I thought, was just in a bad spot after beating Vegas and Washington. So that loss was a little bit explainable. So I do like Florida in this game, but they're a monster favorite here, which also I think the public is actually maybe going to think there's some value taking Vancouver as such a massive underdog. This tells you what the odds makers think of Vancouver this year, by the way. And they think Florida's still pretty good. Florida's down from minus 270 to minus 265. 94% of tickets, 98% of the cash on Florida. So they are looking public in the market here. But if you wanted to play this game, I would find a way to play Florida. That would be my opinion in that one. If you want to lay like a minus 1.5 puck line on it, which, by the way, that did win with Colorado yesterday. I was correct on Detroit. Sorry, Jeffrey. You can't play the Rangers at home, man. I'm telling you. And I thought it was a bad spot, too. I liked Detroit. I almost added Detroit to my card. I'm mad I didn't yesterday. And then I did also like Colorado yesterday, and they wound up getting the win after they were down 1-0. I told you the Islanders were going to run out of steam there, although I thought it was going to happen a game earlier. But, yeah, Colorado did cover the puck line in that one, so I don't hate the puck line with Florida in this one. An angle and NHL totals, every line the same and everyone betting over. What do you mean? I don't think the public just really heavily. The NHL is not a very publicly bet sport at all. It's mostly professional money in the NFL, in the NHL market. The public just doesn't pay a whole lot of attention to it, especially when NBA and football are all going on. NHL is like the least publicly bet of all of them, and I think fairly significantly. So that might be why I do better in the NHL, because you can come in and find some nice spots, maybe some value. But I do better in the NBA still for whatever reason. No, you don't suck. I mean, I just disagreed with that one. But But yeah, I mean, there are some strong trends right now with that Ranger team with the home road dichotomy is ridiculous. And I'm going to keep rolling with it. I should have done it yesterday. But that Ranger home road dichotomy has paid off on the show a lot this year already. But yeah, as far as dude, I don't know. I just can't bring myself to get in on unders in the NHL like ever. Like empty net goals are just too much of a danger with, the totals being so like the margins being so razor thin. I would just much rather want to be on an over, even though I know that's the way the public thinks. But in hockey, I think there's actually a legitimate reason to think that way because the empty net goals are a huge hazard. And again, in a game where the totals they're so like there aren't that many goals scored, so the totals are so low that one of those can put like basically every single game over. All right, LA Kings at Washington. Kings 4 wins in a row. They've won every game on the road trip. So at some point, you think they might run out of steam? I don't know. I mean, they beat Pittsburgh, then Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa. Those are 3 big wins up in Canada. Now they're going down to Washington. Washington's been kind of mediocre this year, so it is possible the Kings kind of run out of steam here. They use Forsberg in net on Saturday, so it will be Kemper back in net here, who is their better goalie. So that they do have that going for them. Washington, I mean, I could see arguments that they're in a positive and a negative spot here because Washington returned home from a road trip. They lost to New Jersey in a shootout. Returning home from a road trip is a difficult spot, as I always preach. It could be a spot where you get distracted because you've been away from home. You got to get back and do stuff back at home, whatever. That could take your mind away from the game. Although Washington seems like they weren't distracted in that game because they took this good Devils team into overtime. And I forget, was that the first game without Hughes? I don't remember. Yeah, I think it was because the Devils haven't played since then. So yes, I believe so. So you could argue that Washington's going to be kind of in a hangover spot after that. I don't think they're going to overlook the Kings because the Kings have been hot and they have a good record, even though I know they got Edmonton coming up next. Washington does. But you could argue also this is a second game back home, and if they did fall into that distraction spot in the first game, you get what you need to do done at home, and then you focus more on hockey in the next game. So I don't like the spot for either team. The money is indicating on Washington, down from minus 130 to minus 129 on the money line, 84% of the cash on them, 83% of the tickets on LA. So LA is the public side, which it also does look a little bit strange that Washington is a favorite. They're getting basically home ice here plus the VIG. So the odds makers are telling you these teams are basically even. But why would an 8-2 team be favored against a 10-5-4 team? So that looks odd. So the odds makers are telling you something there that conflicts with what the records look like. So I'll probably lean to Washington, but I also don't want to go up against this Kings 9-1-2 road record. The Kings have been awesome. They're almost like the Rangers, and I haven't even noticed. The Kings have been excellent on the road, and they're actually really bad at home, pretty much. They only have 1 win at home. The Kings are basically the Rangers of the West. I didn't even notice, because the Kings, I just keep thinking they're really good at home, because they were good at home last year. But this year, they've been amazing on the road and not good at home. So, something to keep in mind for Kings games. So, I don't really want to fade LA there. Montreal at Columbus. Montreal is coming off that big game against the Bruins. It was a close game. They took the loss, but that is still a pretty big rivalry game. They do get out of town, though, and go to Columbus, but is this a difficult spot because it's just a single road game, and they do get Washington and Toronto coming up next. So you could argue those are bigger games than Columbus because Columbus really just doesn't attract a whole lot of attention from these teams. So it almost does look like a little bit of a sandwich spot and kind of a spot where it's just weird. A single game travel spot to Columbus. Montreal maybe a little bit hungover after playing tough against the Bruins. Although Montreal did lose that game as a favorite too. So you could argue it could be a bounce back spot. So difficult for me to read what's going on in this game. Columbus did just lose on Saturday. The other winner that I gave out on the show was the Rangers on the road, of course. What else is new? The Rangers got the job done in overtime in a shootout. Columbus, I thought, was in a bad spot because they had returned home and they beat Edmonton in their return home spot. So I thought they were going to run out of gas. And I thought they were also in a letdown spot. And I thought Columbus might put more weight into this Montreal game upcoming, which they still might. I'm going to lean to Columbus in this one. And it looks like the money the market is bearing that out. 89% of the tickets, only 86% of the cash on Montreal. So Montreal is a public road underdog here. And you know I talk about how you want to fade teams that have that type of market setup. When the public likes an underdog like that and they're on the road, you want to look to take the favorite. I mean, they're a favorite for a reason. It does look a little bit weird that Columbus would be a favorite against this Montreal team. It's been pretty hot. Columbus has a bit more of a mediocre record here. But yeah, I would lean to Columbus in this one. Market read seems to agree with that. Montreal's been fairly good on the road, though, so something to keep in mind there. All right. And then, Saab talking about, am I on Utah? Yes, that is correct. Dude, now you're in my mind. You know what I'm thinking. I have actually not entered it into the system yet, so hold on. My mistake. Let me see. I forget what the price was that I got on this. I think it was about minus 114. So, yes, Utah is the play there. Utah minus 114 on the money line. They're up for minus 110 to minus 115 here against Anaheim, although I don't love how they look public right now. I just don't know if that's really true. 64% of the tickets, 57% of the cash on them right now. But as I talk about in hockey, these market percentages that pregame shows here can really, really change throughout the day. And this game's not until 10 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to look to go with Utah here. Oh, whoops. I should have gone with the abbreviation, man. This isn't Utah, the University of Utah. There you go. Utah, UTA, not Texas Arlington. But yes, I do like the spot for Utah, or I don't like the spot for Anaheim. But first of all, I don't see how the public is on Utah here, because if you look at these teams' records, why would the public want to be on a 10-7-1 team that's favored on the road? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would the public want to do that when Anaheim's been hot, even though I know they have cooled off a little bit, but they're 11-6-1 overall. Like, it looks very, very odd, pun intended, to see the odds telling you that Utah's a road favorite here. So the odds makers are telling you Utah's actually the better team. They've been decent on the road. They're 5-6-0 on the road. I know we're going up against Anaheim's really good 5-1 home record. So something I usually don't like to do, but we're going to do it because of the spot. As far as Utah's concerned, they've hit a rut. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games. They just lost in overtime to New York, to the Islanders. The Islanders are on that really hot streak, that really hot stretch. I thought that Utah was in a good spot in that one, and Islanders were not, and the Utah did not get it done for us. But now Utah's had a lot of rest, dude, and they get to leave home and start a road trip. I think this is a good spot for Utah because you had multiple days off. You can break that losing momentum that you got going on. You can focus on hockey. You know they're going to focus on Anaheim because Anaheim's been hot this year. To start a road trip, Utah's got to play San Jose tomorrow, but you know which team is going to get their attention in this back-to-back here. It's going to be Anaheim. So I do expect Utah to show up in this one. And for Anaheim, I don't like the spot for Anaheim as they are returning home from a road trip. Only a 3-game road trip, but it took them fairly far travel-wise, and it's been almost a week since they've been home, so I do think they might fall into that rut there. And to me, I think the public would have a tendency to look at this and think, well, wait a minute. Anaheim just lost all their games on the road trip, but of course they're going to bounce back now that they're at home. Like, you would think that the public has a tendency to think that way, especially when a team's been good at home, which is why I kind of want to fade. I mean, I do want to fade Anaheim here. Even though we don't see that reflected in the market yet. But Anaheim did just go to Colorado, then all the way to Detroit, then back to Minnesota. I know that was an ugly loss to finish the road trip, getting shut out. But I just don't think when teams are in road trip return spots, I don't think they actually tend to bounce back. I think they actually tend to fall into the distraction spot. Utah hasn't been playing that well recently as well, so I'm not sure that Anaheim's really going to be able to avoid that distraction spot. And they might even actually focus on Boston coming up on Wednesday because the Bruins have actually been hot. Even though Utah did beat the Bruins in Boston earlier this year, it was a high-scoring, fairly close game. So yeah, I do not like the spot here for for Anaheim. I do not like it. And as far as Anaheim's home record, they lost at home to Carolina, which Carolina we know is a good team. But they have beaten some good teams at home, so I'm not going to take that away from them. Pittsburgh, I don't think is very good, but their other home wins are against Detroit, New Jersey, Florida, and Winnipeg. So yes, they have been good at home, and they have been beating good teams at home, but I just still think Anaheim is not what they look like I don't think they're as good as this. They're a team that was in the dregs last year in the cellar, and now all of a sudden you expect me to believe they're like this one of these top teams in hockey. I don't think they are. Will they make the playoffs? Yeah, I think they probably will, but I don't think they're this upper echelon team right now. And the odds makers are telling you that they're not even as good as Utah. So we will take Utah in that one. And now we'll go to the NBA to finish this off here. Milwaukee, Cleveland, one of the biggest games, which is the only televised one. You're going to have to hit the streams here, man. This one's on Peacock. Milwaukee did already they lost to Cleveland in Cleveland. What am I saying? Earlier this year, only by 5. So Milwaukee played pretty well in that game. It does mean it's a little bit of in-season revenge for Milwaukee here, going back to that same place. But both teams are going to show up for this game. It's a big game, so I don't expect either team to really be unfocused. Milwaukee is playing a third game in 4 days, but at least for them, they played the first 2 games at home. They did lose badly to the Lakers in the last game, so I do think, in a way, maybe they're going to bounce back from that because that was just ugly. 3 games in 4 days, not easy, but at least the travel is only from Milwaukee to Cleveland, which isn't too bad. As far as Cleveland is concerned, they have even less travel and more rest as they're staying at home, coming off a win over Memphis. It was really lackluster, only beating them by 8. So the spot, to me, does look better for Cleveland. And when you got 2 teams that are probably both going to be focused, I'm going to lean towards the better team, and that's Cleveland. Cleveland up from 6.5 to 7.5 here. 83% of the tickets, 95% of the cash on Cleveland. Yeah, I'll lean to Cleveland in that game. I do think the spot's a little bit better for them, and both teams showing up. You'd lean towards Cleveland here. Cleveland, maybe not a whole lot of line value, though, because Cleveland was 6.5 in that other game against Milwaukee, although they didn't cover the number, but now they're through the key number of 7, and they're at 7.5 here. So I don't really want to give it out as a play or anything, but it's a lean for me to Cleveland. Indiana at Detroit. Indiana, man, have they fallen off, man, this year. Just injuries have really, really hurt them this year, pun intended. And they're still dealing with some of those injuries right now. Nemhart, Mathurin, got to see if they're in or out of the lineup here. Indiana, they should be in a bit of a positive spot here because they did return home from a road trip on Saturday, which, as I always point out, is a bad spot. And they were out in elevation, out on the Pacific Coast. Very, very difficult road trip road trip return spot there for Indiana. They couldn't get it done. They lost by double digits to Toronto. They're not staying at home, but now after that loss, they get to go back out on the road. I actually think it might be more of a positive for Indiana to just get out of there, refocus on basketball. Once you've been at home, you've done what you need to do at home, get back out on the road, and then you shouldn't be as distracted here. For Detroit, they're coming off a nice win, a couple wins in a row over Chicago and Philadelphia. They've won a bunch of games in a row, obviously. 8 wins in a row, but the last couple wins were pretty big against Chicago and Philadelphia. Now they have multiple days off, and they're just staying at home, kind of basking in it, which I actually think is bad. I think that can make you overconfident, and it might bust your momentum to have multiple days off while staying at home. And they might not fully focus on Indiana. They do have to play Atlanta tomorrow, and Atlanta's playing fairly well, even without Trae Young. So I would take the points with Indiana if I was going to play it. I won't do it, but the money seems to agree. The Pistons, I think they're favored by too much as well. They're up from 8.5 to 10 here. 80% of the tickets, only 62% of the cash. Who would have thought that the Pistons, being the Pistons whisperer, would mean I'm starting to lean towards fading the Pistons as a huge favorite now. The Pistons were always like a dog, man. They were always my dog, an underdog. Did give out a win with the Pistons as a favorite not that long ago, though, against Chicago. But in this situation, I would take the points of the Pacers. But I do have some concerns about it. Clippers at Philadelphia. I think the Clippers are in a pretty difficult spot here. They're on a back-to-back, and they're playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities. They went to double overtime in Dallas on Friday, and then they were in Boston, and they took Boston to the wire on Sunday, lost the game. Now they're going to Philadelphia. That was yesterday, and now they're going to Philadelphia. It's not a good spot for LA, man. Third game in 4 days, fourth game in 6 days, actually. And the first one of those was them being at home on Wednesday against Denver. It's a pretty lousy spot for the Clippers, man. I like Philadelphia in this game. I just have sort of an issue with how the injury situation sets up here. Philadelphia had a single game road trip to Detroit. They couldn't get it done. They lost to Detroit. Now Philadelphia's back home, and they've had multiple days off, which I think could kind of help them here and break that momentum. So they are the much, much more rested team, although you know that's going to factor into the line here. Joel Embiid is out. He's been out for a bit now. I mean, what else is new? So that's not really going to influence, game to game because he's been out for a while. Same with Kawhi Leonard. He's missed a bunch of games for the Clippers. So both teams have one of their big men who's been missing for a long time. My problem with the Philadelphia side here is Paul George might be coming back. This might be his season debut. And while that's good in the long run for the Sixers, but he is kind of an aging veteran here now. He's questionable right now. I would watch the injury report because if he does come back, I actually don't like Philadelphia as much because you're going to have to lay more points, and he's going to be the key guy. I mean, you have the key guy coming back like that. He's key with Embiid out for sure. That can, disrupt the momentum because it's what role is George going to fit? What role is Maxey going to play? So I think it could be a little bit disruptive to have George come back, man. So that's the one thing I don't like about the spot for Philadelphia. Otherwise, I do like it quite a bit. This one almost made my card. I just am hesitant because of the Paul George thing. So I'll stay off of it. But I lean towards laying it with Philadelphia here. The spot is really, really bad for the Clippers. The money seems to agree with me. It's up from 4.5 to 5.5 now. Seems like maybe that's indicating George is coming back too, and you're losing some value here. If you want to get the Sixers, if you want to play the Sixers, you got to get it at below 7 at the very least, though. 83% of tickets, 91% of the cash on the Sixers. 7, of course, being key again because it's where a team stops intentionally fouling. All right. They could use a shakeup. Yeah, but I just think that in that first game, they just don't understand their roles. So a lot of times the chemistry is just not there. I've been waiting all season to fade Philadelphia when Paul George comes back, dude, because I'm that's going to be a huge reverse injured player spot. But it just so happens to come in a spot where the Clippers are in a horrible rest spot. So I just can't do it, man. The Knicks are at Miami. This is a zigzag spot here. I almost want to get involved in this one, too. The Knicks just beat Miami at home in a very high-scoring game by 8. That was on Friday. Now they're playing each other again, but the Knicks are starting a road trip. And I usually talk about how starting a road trip is a focus spot. But in this case, I'm not sure because Miami's going to want to look to get their revenge against the Knicks here after that loss. And by the way, both of these teams are playing a lot of backups here right now. This is an injury. This is the injury bowl here because something I didn't even know is Jalen Brunson actually got hurt against Orlando, and he didn't play in the game against Miami. So the Knicks are actually in an injured player spot in that game, which I think actually helped them because when your star player like Brunson goes down, you'll step it up for that game without him, man. So Brunson was out, but now this is the second game without Brunson. So yes, that would put me on Miami because I think when the team plays well the first game without the star, they tend to take a step back in the next game. And it's a zigzag for Miami, of course. So that means that because Miami lost in that game at the Knicks, Miami's going to be the team that has the adjustments to make. The problem I have with it is, Miami's still injured. That's not really a concern for me here because that's been the case for a while. Adebayo and Hero are both still out, but that's been the case for a while. The problem I have is this is also an injured player spot for the Knicks because Anunoby got hurt in the game against Miami, and he's going to be out for a while. So now it's like the Knicks are in an injured player theory spot 2 days in a row now almost. So that this one also comes into play comes into a game where it's the post-injured player theory spot with the other injured player. So I just don't know what I want to do with this game. This game there's a little bit too much going on for my liking here. I'm not going to do it. But yeah, the Knicks are down both Brunson and Anunoby now. But Miami is also down Adebayo and Hero. I'm not going to do it. I lean to the Heat. They're up from 1 to 1.5 here. The money agrees with it, but the Knicks are a 6.5 point home favorite. And now you got to take Anunoby out because Brunson was already out. So the Knicks are a 6.5 point favorite. So if you give NBA, you don't get much for home court. Okay, so flipping the home venue, the line should probably be With Anunoby still there for the Knicks, the line would probably be about 3. Knicks -3 would be my opinion. Maybe like 2, 2.5. Now, because Anunoby's out, you're moving that line to the Heat -1.5. So that's what I'm concerned about, man. The injured player situation for the Knicks, I think, has caused the line to overreact a little bit on the Heat. Although I will say, it is still in that range where you're just picking the winner. So I do agree with the Heat still. 74% of the cash on them. I might money line it as well instead of laying the 1.5, and then maybe you'll find a decent money line price, and then you don't have to worry about the points. 65% of the tickets on the Knicks. The Knicks are public, so it's like the public doesn't even realize how injured the Knicks are or something. I don't know. You're on Miami. Yeah, I agree with it. This one was close to being a play. I like the Sixers better. Then I like this one, Miami. And then I have one play that I like better than both. That is my one NBA play of the day. What's the other injury? I don't even know at this point. But Brunson and Anunoby are huge injuries. All right. Charlotte at Toronto. Fuck it. That's my play. Let's just do it now. Charlotte plus the 8.5 here is going to be the play here against Toronto. I don't like how this sets up for Toronto. They're very public, by the way. 89% of the tickets, 95% of the cash for now. But I think you're going to see the money start coming in on the Hornets as we go through the day. Raptors are up from 7 to 8.5 here, but I don't agree with it. As far as Charlotte is concerned, I should be wearing my Charlotte Ball shirt here. What's his name? I almost said Monte Ball. I'm like, no, that's the running back. Whichever Ball they have. Lonzo Ball, LaMelo Ball, whichever one it is. I don't know. But I'll wear his jersey tomorrow if they get this done for us here, if they cover. Charlotte, yeah, they're coming off a game against Oklahoma City. I know they're playing a third game in 4 days in different cities and a fourth game in 6 days. I know that's not that easy. And they were zigzagging. They played at home. Then they went to Milwaukee. On a back-to-back, they had to go to Oklahoma City. But now they at least have 1 day off. And they're technically starting a road trip here. And they lost by a huge margin against Oklahoma City. The game wasn't close. So the game was pretty much over in the final stretch there. So I don't think Charlotte was put, it wasn't a game where they went like totally to the max against OKC. Now they're going out on the road, starting a road trip, trying to break a loss streak here where they've lost 5 of their last 6 or whatever that is. I think it is a positive spot for Charlotte, but I think more the crux of this is that this is a negative spot for Toronto. Toronto's on a nice hot streak, and they just have been on the road since Friday the 7th. So Toronto's been on the road for a long time. Going down to Atlanta. They played Atlanta, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Cleveland, Indiana. I know they didn't go to the Pacific Coast or anything like that, but still, when you're away for that long of a period of time, now you're going to go through customs, come back to Canada. You got to get through all that. You got stuff to do at home. You got this ugly Charlotte team here as your opponent. And then you have to go to Philadelphia on Wednesday, which is a much bigger opponent, bigger game. I don't like it. I think Toronto will fall into that distraction spot. Maybe get caught here in this game. I like taking a lot of points in a spot like this. They might look ahead to Philadelphia as well. So, yeah, we'll do it. We'll take the Hornets plus the points. I know last time I gave out the Hornets in a game where they were returning home from a road trip. It didn't work out, but hopefully it does here. Dallas at Minnesota. Dallas, man, they're off to a bad start. They've had a lot of injuries to their big men. Kyrie is still out. They don't have a point guard. What are we going to do with this team? They're playing 2 overtime games in a row. They've played 2 overtime games in a row, even though they were both at home. They're playing a third game in 4 days now, fourth game in 6 days. And those last 2 games, including yesterday, were both overtime. Double overtime against the Clippers, which they lost. Then they won in overtime last night against Portland. Now they got to travel to Minnesota. Yeah, it's a bad rest spot for Dallas. They're going to be very, very tired, I assume, coming into this game. So, yeah, I don't like the spot for Dallas, even though you got to think, well, if they can, they're going to still focus on Minnesota because it is a big deal. And Dallas did just get a win to break their loss streak, at least. For Minnesota, they're staying at home, but they're playing a third game in 4 days as well. And they did just lose to Denver. Big game for them, and that broke their loss streak. That broke their win streak, So that could hurt their momentum a little bit, disrupt their momentum. For Minnesota, that was a big game against Denver as well. They've now lost twice to Denver. Couldn't get it done there. So I don't love the spot for Minnesota here either. And I also don't really want to lay 14 points with a team that you know is the public side here. So I can't lay it with Minnesota here. They're up from 13.5 to 14. 68% of the tickets, only 61% of the cash. So the market read looks like it's leaning towards taking the points with the Mavs. I think if that's the case, it's more of just a numbers play there and not really looking at the situation, which the situation is a little bit less bad for the T-Wolves, I think. But, yeah, I mean, 14, I think, is also too many points. There's no way I want to get involved in that. And then, speaking of too many points, OKC, I don't even know if I've ever seen a road favorite in the NBA be favored by this many points. OKC is going to New Orleans. OKC is just still on a run here. They got that win on Saturday against Charlotte. Don't think it's really a particularly bad spot for Oklahoma City here, although it's possible they just go in and overlook New Orleans. I mean, New Orleans has lost 5 games in a row. They're on a back-to-back, which is not great, in 3 games in 4 days, 4 games in 6 days, although every game has been at home, so at least they're not traveling. Although they did still play yesterday, which is not great. Zion Williamson is a game-time decision, so that's something you got to look at. If he comes back, it will be a reverse injured player spot for the Pelicans, so that might give you less value on the Pelicans, although, I mean, they're not going to overlook Oklahoma City. I mean, even if Zion comes back, you're not going to get a team that's like, oh, we can like ease up a little bit because our best player is back. I don't think so. I mean, this is a 2-11 team. It's lost 5 games in a row, and they're playing Oklahoma City here. I mean, I think they're going to try to focus on this game if they can. I don't know what I would even want to do with this. The Thunder are up from 17 to 17.5 on the road. Ridiculously high number. I mean, there's no way I would want to lay that. As dominant as the Thunder are. 91% of the tickets, 93% of the cash on them. I mean, they're a public side. I don't put too much into that cash disparity right there. 2% with a ridiculously public team right now. Oh, man. I mean, I would lean to taking the points if you really forced me to give out an opinion on that one, but I hate it. I hate that game. And then finishing the board, we have Chicago and Denver Nuggets. Chicago at Denver. Denver's off to a really nice start, 10-2. Chicago was 5-0 to start the year, and now they've crashed back down to earth, 6-6. Chicago, I mean, I still think they're an improving team. I mean, they're a mediocre team. This latest stretch they've been on was pretty difficult, man, but now they're in an elevation back-to-back, which I really don't like, even though they had a lot of time off prior to last night. I gave out Utah as a play last night. I wasn't buying into the extra rest for Chicago there because I thought they might look ahead to Denver here, and they were coming off that big game against Detroit. Chicago went to double overtime in Utah last night, still lost, and now they have to turn around and play Denver. The back-to-back elevation games, very, very difficult to do that, especially when you played 2 extra periods of basketball last night. That's not good. Even though, yeah, ideally they'd want to try to focus on Denver because they're really good, but man, it is a bad spot for Chicago. For Denver, they're kind of in a bad spot too, though. They're returning home from a road trip they've been on since Tuesday. They went out to the Pacific Coast. They finished the road trip up in Minnesota, and they got a nice win against Minnesota. Pretty big win. Minnesota's still a good team, although I did point out how Minnesota's been very bad against good teams this year. Minnesota's been good against bad teams, which, true, Dallas is a bad team, so there is that. But Minnesota's been bad stepping up in class this year, so whatever. But that's still a big win for Denver. They're still returning home here. I'm not going to say they're going to overlook Chicago, but they only have a couple of days to get whatever they have to do at home done. And then they go back out on the road. So these single-game homestands are tricky, where I really don't like to look at the home team in those games. The Nuggets are getting the money, but they're all the way up from 10.5 to 14.5 now. So I don't know if there's like an injury to be aware of, because why did the line move that significantly? It doesn't really look like it. I mean, I know Jokic is day-to-day, but he hasn't missed a game, I don't think, during this recent run. It looks like he's probably going to play because the line's up to 14.5. He played in their last game, too. 75% of tickets, 87% of the cash on Denver. So the money looks like it's coming in on Denver. I mean, I guess if you forced my hand, I guess I would lay it with Denver, but I really don't want to get involved in that. Those are my thoughts on that game. So there you go with that. Oh, yeah, you said you like the under in this game. Yeah, I mean, the money looks like it has come in on that. I mean, the number, you've lost some value on that. The total was really high at 245. It's down to 239. The Bulls do play at a fast pace. The Nuggets, I think maybe less so, though. 62% of the tickets, 60% of the cash on the over. Money does look like it's indicating on the under, but, I mean, if you're doing it, I wouldn't have waited probably, or I wouldn't wait, I guess is what I would say, because you're definitely losing some value on that number there. It's already crashed 6 points, which hopefully that doesn't come into play. All right, and then we got the NFL before we get out of here, which, I closed my ESPN here. Hang on. I'm going to reopen it. Oh, no, that's Ken Palm. Up here it is. All right. So NFL before we get out of here. I do have a play here in the NFL. I don't think we're going to get the 3 on this on the Cowboys, but I like the Cowboys here. I talked about it on my NFL show the other day. I like how this sets up. We will have a play on the Dallas Cowboys here. Minus the 3.5. I guess we have to give it out at that. If you want to, I know 3 is key, so I don't love that. I'd rather lay the 3, but if you want to lay a money line, you could do that too, but it's a pretty expensive money line. If you want a money line parlay it, I mean, I'm not going to stop you from doing that either. I like how this sets up for Dallas, dude. Dallas is coming out of a bye, so first of all, I'm going to start by looking towards that team if that's the case, because they went to the bye on a bad note. So when a team goes into the bye on a bad note, and it was a bad note, they lost 44-24 in high elevation in Denver, and then they turned around and they played on Monday and lost to Arizona on a Monday night game that was highly publicized, although nobody could watch it. Thanks, Disney, although I could because I still have cable. I watched some of that game. That was an ugly game for Dallas. They only put up 17 points as well. So the public is still going to be on Dallas here, but it's more of the fact that they just don't want anything to do with the Raiders. But in this case, I just don't think that they're wrong. I think you're going to see better offense out of Dallas this time. I mean, Dallas, the one really good thing about Dallas is their offense. Their offense is very good. Dak Prescott's been really good this year. They can't really run the football that well. They mostly throw it, but luckily for them, Vegas has a better rushing defense than pass defense, I'm pretty sure. So I don't think Vegas is really well equipped to slow down this Dallas passing attack. Denver, of course, is. So the fact that Dallas put up 24 at Denver, that's not really that bad. And then the last game was bad. Dallas only putting up 17 against Arizona. That's ugly. But if you look at this game, Dallas had a bunch of turnovers. Dallas actually only got outgained by 7 yards, but they lost the turnover battle 3-0. So that's a huge reason why they lost the game. So that's something they can work on in the bye, just clean up those mistakes. Dallas is definitely not quite as bad as they looked in that game against Arizona. I think for them it might actually be good to go on the road because you don't have to hear like the media complaining about how bad you are right now. Just go out on the road, play Vegas, Vegas, by the way, their home advantage is terrible because Vegas is like a tourist spot, you know what I mean? And a lot of people actually travel to Vegas let's have a Vegas, weekend or whatever. Go to our team's football game. Like these fans of the road team will actually go and make a weekend out of it in Vegas. So Vegas has a horrific home advantage. They almost don't even have one because these road teams, their crowd shows up. And Dallas has a huge contingency all over the place. And especially Dallas isn't that far from Vegas either. So all across the Southwest, there's a huge Dallas fan base. I mean, they're America's team. They have one of the biggest fan bases in the country. So Dallas is going to have a ton of fans at this game. So I like that aspect of it too. That's something I didn't mention on my show the other night. So I don't think Vegas has really any home field advantage here, really. Maybe give them 1 point, if that. Vegas, they're coming off a tough game, too. I know they've had extra rest here, but as I pointed out, that was a big game for them on Thursday night, a huge divisional game in Mile High, and they almost got the win at Denver. They only lost 10-7. That was a big game, man. And when you play a physical, punishing defense like that, like Denver, and now they're coming off that game, and like I said, I think teams have only covered the next week after playing Denver. I think they've only covered 2 times this entire season because Denver physically beats you up. And that being a divisional game and almost pulling off a huge upset, I don't think it's a good spot, even with the extra rest for Vegas. I don't like it at all. I like Dallas here. And, of course, Dallas, I think, is going to have the extra motivation, which I talked about on my show the other night, with the fact that Nealand. Quinton Williams is one of their guys they got in a trade, so that's also a factor, by the way. Dallas has made moves to get some defensive players. They got Quinton Williams from the Jets, so he's going to improve their defense, at least to some extent. I know Dallas has had one of the worst defenses this season, I know, but they got him. They traded for another defensive player, I think a linebacker, or maybe somebody in the secondary, I forget. But then Dallas also has a couple of injured defensive players coming back as well. So Dallas's defense should show some improvement here. And this Raider offense has been really a mess all year too. So I don't really see the Raider offense really being able to take advantage of Dallas's bad defense. The Raiders haven't been able to run the ball, even though they drafted Genty in the first round. He hasn't been able to cut it, man. I mean, I thought that might be the case because going up against Mountain West defenses that aren't any good to then having to face NFL defenses is a totally different thing, man. This Raider offense really hasn't been good. I think Dallas might be able to slow them down to some extent. And, of course, I don't think the Raiders' offense can catch up to Dallas's offense. And the Raiders, because they can't run the ball, they might become one-dimensional as well. And then it's all on Geno Smith. And who does he have for receivers? He has Bowers, and that's it because they traded away Myers. So, that's going to help Dallas's bad defense because they know they can just double-team Bowers, who's the best receiver, the only receiver that the Raiders really have. So he's their only target. So that makes it a little bit easier to slow down this Raider offense, which is very offensive. And as I was just alluding to, we have the Nealand situation with Dallas, which I talked about in pretty decent detail the other night. They have a guy who was a staple of their team, man, one of their starting defensive, I believe he was a starting defensive lineman, right? Marshawn Nealand, I don't know exactly what the situation was, how it got to that, but I know there was a police chase. I don't know exactly what happened, but he committed suicide. So now we have that in the air. But to me, all those quotes that I read, you can go back and watch my NFL show from Saturday night. There were a lot of quotes coming out of this Cowboys locker room that I like to hear. Like you had the coach, Schottenheimer, basically saying that the guys want to go out and play football. Like this is what they want to do, because they've had a hard week, whatever. One of the best things they can do is go and play football. And I agree with that. Like when teams have like a death on the team like this, I think it does usually tend to be more of a positive than a negative because football is your distraction, right? Like you've had to deal with this death like all week. For them, it's been over a week because it's been the bye week. You get that kind of out of your system, and football can be a distraction from it all, right? But then there's also the thing where you want to go out and you want to get a win for the guy. You know what I mean? You liked this guy. Seems like the team liked this guy. Dak Prescott seems like he's extra motivated here because his brother actually committed suicide as well back in the day. Not recently, but back in the day. So that's something Prescott has had to deal with personally before. So I think you might see a big effort out of Dallas here, man. So for all those reasons, Dallas is going to be the play here in this Monday night game here. And by the way, I think it's even better because Dallas lost on Monday night prior to going into the bye. Now they get to redeem themselves with another Monday night game that nobody can watch because of Disney. But when you lost on Monday night, I think having another Monday night game, it's like you have another opportunity. Hey, we looked really bad in this spotlight game. Now we get another spotlight game. We get a chance to look way better this time. So yeah, I like it. Again, the Raiders season is basically over. And yes, I know that for a team like the Raiders, when their season is over, I like to say they're going to get up for games that are primetime games, which I know this is, and they're going to get up for divisional games. But the game that they just played on last Thursday was both a primetime game and divisional against the division-leading Broncos, who just beat the Chiefs yesterday, which I was wrong about. So, yeah, I mean, that was a bigger game for the Raiders than this one is. That's just the way that it is. That's the way that I read it, at least. So we're going to lay it with Dallas in that one, man. And that's going to do it. So once again, today, the plays, we have college basketball. We have Oakland plus the points. Hopefully you can get a little bit more than 12.5 because the line did drop a little bit. Lafayette plus the points. Tulsa plus the points. So some big underdogs because I know Jeffrey likes those. And all underdogs, actually, but a small one with North Dakota State. Hockey, we got Utah on the money line. NBA, Charlotte Hornets plus the points. And in the NFL, so even on a Monday, that's usually slow Mondays, we actually have 7 plays today. Dallas, on Monday. So that's going to do it. Yeah, man. White will get additional minutes for the Bulls or get some minutes. He's not going to play. I don't even know, man. I don't know what's going on with the Bulls right now. But, yeah, that game's really, really unpredictable to me, like, regardless of the White situation. Sanders is bad, dude. I know, like, they're throwing him into the mix there. Dude, Stefanski, he is the worst head coach when it comes to quarterback decisions that I've ever seen. Like, last year, he benched Jameis Winston to play DTR. I don't even know where DTR is now. I think he might be, is he on the Eagles or something? I don't know. He's like a third, fourth string quarterback somewhere. I don't even know where he is now. That was ridiculously stupid. Winston is dynamic, man. I know we didn't quite get there. I mean, the Giants covered for us yesterday if you got the 7.5. I thought they were going to win outright. The Giants could have won that game. They're winning the game very late in the game. So unfortunate there because Winston looked like he was very pumped up for it. I think he did all right in the game. Yeah, and then Sanders was terrible. I don't even understand that move. I know Dylan Gabriel's bad, but Sanders is probably even worse. And that was a game where the Browns could have beaten the Ravens. And you're going to change your quarterback? What are you doing, man? The Browns actually could have won that game if they just stuck with Dylan Gabriel because he was keeping them in that game while the defense was keeping them in the game. But yeah, that was very, very strange. Stefanski should be fired. I don't get it at all. Make Jim Schwartz the head coach, man. Focus extra hard on the defense because their defense is good. Yeah, correct. Unalive player spot for Dallas. Mariners signed Josh Naylor. What do you mean 11-1? You're saying they're going to 11-1 to win the World. Oh, that's the odds. They're 11-1 to win the World Series. I mean, that Mariner team, they've never even made the World Series as a franchise, so I don't know, man. And they had Josh Naylor this year, right? They just re-signed him. They got him in a trade this year, so they had him for the stretch run this year. Oh, Gabriel got injured. All right, thank you, Bobby. I take that back then. All right. Dude, I was confused because I saw some people saying one thing, some people saying another thing, and I saw that stupid, who's that lady, that sports analyst who's like, I don't know, she's basically like deep-throating Shedeur Sanders and saying if you say anything bad about him, you're a racist or whatever. That's all ridiculous. She's a moron, but I couldn't really figure out, like, did they actually decide to switch away from Gabriel because he was sucking, or did he get hurt? So, all right, thank you, Bobby. I guess he got hurt. Then, all right, then I'll ease up on Stefanski a little bit for that. Correct. That was Sanders did not have experience throwing to those guys. I still don't think he's good though. Hopefully I'm trying with my quarterback reads, man. Like I see, like back in the day, I seem to be the only one that thought Josh Allen was going to be good. Everybody was thinking Mitch Trubisky was going to be better than Allen. I think that was the same year, and I liked Allen. Like I don't know, man. I don't know if it's something in my mind. I mean, I've gotten some quarterbacks wrong, but I thought Allen was going to be great. So I got that one right, and then I've said that I like Jackson Dart. Obviously, I thought he was the best of this quarterback class by far, which I think is already turning out to be true. He just keeps getting concussed because he doesn't take care of himself. He is super aggressive, running all over the place and taking hits, which was the case in college too. But this is the NFL. John Gruden's got to work with him, man. John Gruden should become the coach of the Giants. Gruden with Dart, I would love that team so much. That's what should happen. And then, yeah, I also never liked Caleb Williams, so I'm on record with that, too. I don't think Williams is good. I still think the Bears are fraudulent. I don't think J.J. McCarthy is good either, so that's what was going on in that game. Two very bad offensive performances in that game. They were offending. They were offensive to me. Dart, yeah, he's got something, man. Dart has the, I don't know. Like, he seems like he has the ability to lead, like you said. Yeah, I don't know. He has a je ne sais quoi about him. Yeah, he looks like he is the guy, but he's got to come back. That's going to do it, man. Thanks, guys, for hanging out this morning. Let's get some wins today. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Like, subscribe. Give me some good comments on the channel here. That all helps me out. Listen on audio. Give me a good review on Spotify and Apple. That helps me out as well. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube. That's up to date, I believe, now with the covers. Haven't been putting much out. I apologize, but my voice is just really in dire straits right now, man. I could do dire straits. I'll redo Money for Nothing. No, I don't know. That would at least help my voice would be able to do it, because it would be able to do it, because that song is basically just talking for the vocals. And then patreon.com/learn-to-toad, and you get a uke feed on Spotify and some request ability there. Tommy Cutlets is funny, but I don't think he's a good quarterback. I don't know where. I think is he on the Patriots now? I think he's on the Patriots now. He's one of the Patriots' backup quarterbacks now. Tommy DeVito, man, what's gonna happen though? Because he's not in New York, so he can't go back home and eat his mom's chicken parmesan after the game now, because he's not in New York. I don't know. He's not that far away though. I don't know. But yeah, I like him. He's just not a good quarterback. So, all right, that's going to do it. Thanks, guys. Peace.